Hello and welcome back to the Dota 2 Asia Championship 2015 here on HeflaTV. This is going to be game 2 of our best of 2 series between HyperGlory Team and Nvidia Aces. As far as game 1 is concerned, my goodness, it was quite a show from both sides. During the early portion of the game, honestly, I didn't think that Aces had much of a chance. They had the Deuce to fall back on late game, sure, but you were dealing with a farm SF, a farm Queen of Pain, a farm Faceless Void. It was not looking great, but then the comeback was real. They find a couple good fights. They throw it away a little bit, sure, and then it all culminates into a rapier on the Dusa, and then she loses it, and then the game is impossible to win, but still, they did really well, and I'm looking forward to this game number 2. They're going to show HyperGlory Team a little bit of their own strategy, with Faceless Void and Ancient Apparition picked up by them, and HGT themselves going to get the Vengeful Spirit and Batrider. Not only is Venge securing the Batrider and making sure that there's not going to be a lasso snapped by an enemy Vengeful Spirit with the Nether swap, they are also going to have defensive swaps up against the Faceless Void. And although 9 times out of 10, it's going to cost you your Vengeful Spirit's life, Vengeful Spirit, and you can save your core and potentially look for a turnaround is one of the big reasons why Venge is such a high priority pick, because of the utility of Nether swap. That added on to the ability to go into Roshan, just all around a really solid support with a single target disable. What more can you want? Venge, even after some slight tweaks, still extremely potent, and I don't think Venge is going anywhere soon. Ancient Apparition for Aces is going to combo well with the Faceless Void, and both sides have a decent amount of initiation power at their side, but for now, Aces are the ones holding out the damage, but in the next couple picks, that could completely change, and Skywrath Mage would have been a decent way to shore that up for HGT. With the Skywrath Mage dropping a Mystic Flare either onto a Magic Missile target or into a lassoed target, or even onto the Faceless Void inside the Chronosphere to dissuade him from focusing down a single hero, or at the very least wasting some time inside the Chrono where he's forced to maneuver around the Mystic Flare, is going to be a nice ban coming out from Aces. We actually have no reserve time on HGT. I'm not sure if that's a replay bug, or if they're being penalized for something or other, or if they actually used it all. I actually wasn't paying enough attention. I just see 0-0-0 on that reserve. Juggernaut also taken out by Aces, and pretty much we are playing the game where we just look at the most standard picks and we'll see them banned out here. We're probably not going to be seeing an axe from either side, but honestly, I wouldn't be super surprised. HGT are going to be the ones out of the gate to have the first pick, and right now I'm seeing Avenge and a Batrider, 2 ranged heroes. Maybe, just maybe, we get to see a Drill Ranger Visage from HyperGlory Team. Although, up against the Faceless Void, that is very risky. They are actually not going to have a ban at all, since they have no reserve time. I don't see anything in the chat about that, and it's probably just accepted. So they aren't going to have that second ban, unfortunately enough for them, but they are going to have this next pick. And it's going to be a Bristleback. Definitely a different route than the Drill Ranger that I was alluding to, maybe half hoping for. But it is going to be a powerhouse on the front lines for HyperGlory Team, and somebody that's pretty darn difficult, even inside the Chronosphere, to bring down, just with the way that he's building. Although you can work around Bristleback inside the Chrono and get towards his face. Just all around a solid hero, and that minus armor with the Vengeful Spirit, a lot of nice synergy there with the Viscous Nasal Goo, and works well for HyperGlory Team's lineup. And as a whole, they still have plenty of positions to snag up some more damage or carry potential in the mid, especially, but we'll just have to see. For Aces, if they want to go for it, I think Invoker is a pretty solid choice here, having more damage to dump to the Chronosphere, more global synergy with the Ancient Apparition. It works pretty well with what they have, and is a pretty competent laner as well, although they might shy away from it. Exort Invoker really has fallen out of favor in the last couple of months. Alrighty. We could be in for the Shadow Fiend that we saw in game number 1 as well for Aces. That is an option and is on the pool, and played very well for them. But it also is going to sacrifice a little bit of the damage that they have in the Chronosphere. We saw last game the combination of the Shadow Fiend ultimate and the Chronosphere, and it's not as good as you'd want it to be. You want the Shadow Fiend to be right on top of the target with the ultimate unveiling, and they just drop from 100 to 0 and they're cratered. But that's not the case. At the very least, you do get the slow and the damage reduction on everybody, and it's still decent. But they are going to take their time and think about this next choice. It isn't a game that's going to get Aces towards the finals of DAC or even continue on in the tournament. Right now, I don't think it's really possible with their standings inside the group stage to actually go any further. But they are fighting for glory, and that is all that really matters. These are top Dota players, and they want to prove it here. Huh. The timer stopped. Why did the timer stop? Oh, Nelly. We're remaking. So, sorry about this, guys. I'm gonna have to go and load into the game again. Huh. Okay. Well, this is awkward. We're stuck with all sorts of technical problems. Also, I am going to have to set my camera back again. Usually you're not supposed to see this stuff on camera, but right now we are behind the scenes as we actually just don't have anything else to go on. It is going to be a Captain's Mode remake, and the band should be exactly the same. I don't think there's any worth changing it, and it looks like they have actually given reserve time to Hyper Glory Team. I'm not sure if we're actually going to see that matter at all, or what's actually going on, why they remaked. I didn't actually read the chat for that. But who knows. Hopefully we'll be able to get into this without much further ado. Why is the timer here? What's going on? Oh, it looks like we're going to be wearing down reserve time. Okay then. Well, we're in for a little bit of a slow pace right now. Excuse me while I clear my throat. Ah. No, that's actually just same band's picks. I'm stupid. Okay. Well, here we go. It's going to be Faceless Void first pick. Nothing that we haven't seen already. And it shouldn't be. If any of these teams misclick, I swear I'm gonna be really mad. That's pretty much all I can guarantee. Okay. All things fine and dandy, and now we have to wait for Hyper Glory Team to run out of their reserve time. So we're in here for 2 minutes, and during these 2 minutes I can respond to stuff in chat if you are interested, but... Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, darn it. We're remaking again. Because they banned the Bristleback. They picked a Shadow Fiend. And we can actually stay here. They actually aren't talking about anything inside the chat. Are Aces okay with them getting the SF? It is going to be Invoker I was talking about a little bit earlier for NVIDIA Aces. Maybe Hyper Glory Team are just going to keep it rolling. One could hope, I suppose. Huh. Okay then. Did they mean to ban Bristleback the first time? I don't think so. Misa has an SR inside chat. I assume that means sorry? Hmm? Maybe they meant to pick SF. Okay, that makes sense. Fair enough. Okay, so we'll proceed as if nothing happened. And nothing did happen. This is the first iteration of this lobby, of course. There actually hasn't been any snafus. Shadow Fiend pickup for Hyper Glory Team is going to synergize nicely with the Vengeful Spirit, minus armor synergy as I kind of talked about with the Bristleback, although this one isn't going to be as tanky and a lot easier to bring down inside the Chronosphere too. I do like the Invoker pickup for NVIDIA Aces, as I talked about it a little bit earlier on. It just synergizes so nicely with the majority of their heroes. Deafening Blast can be really annoying for Shadow Fiend to deal with throughout the game, and just the raw amount of damage you can pump into Chrono with an Exhort Invoker is pretty darn ridiculous. Already, for Hyper Glory Team, we're still lacking a support and a core for them, presumably a safe lane farmer. But as far as that other support is concerned, they could go for pretty much anything that they wanted to. One can always hope for something peculiar like Aces did in game number 1 with like a Pudge or a support Morphling, but I doubt we're going to see that. They have a decent amount of setup with the Magic Missile, and there really isn't anything that necessarily begs to be picked up by them. If they want to further secure this Batrider pickup for themselves, a Disruptor pickup could ban that out from NVIDIA Aces, as well as offer them some nice utility for their own team. It's really never terrible to have a Disruptor on your side, but instead, they're actually going to go for a Darkseer. After the longest of times of obscurity, Darkseer has been seeing a little bit more pickup as of late, and can work very nicely in the lane. It depends on who he's actually up against, and at this point, I think it's really risky to go for the Darkseer, and I don't really see anything that's going to be amazing that he'll be able to accomplish. One can always hope for the dream vacuum into Requiem, where you get a rampage for the Shadow Fiend after just a couple of auto attacks and a raise in front of him. But without that, there really isn't anything else to set up. This makes the Disruptor that I was talking about a little bit earlier even more attractive. And if not the Disruptor, Sand King, Earthshaker, one of those big AoE control supports to combo with it, because right now they are lacking it, and I don't really see this Darkseer pickup. I'm kind of paranoid that we're going to have something wrong happen with this game, since we already have a remake, but it looks like that's not going to be the case, and NVIDIA Aces going to pick themselves up a slaughter. So deck with minus armor strats coming out from Hyperglory Team. They have the big guns on NVIDIA Aces with the Slaughter and his amplified damage. It is going to make this Faceless Void hit so very hard, and it really does feel like an Exhort Invoker game. As far as how the lanes are going to shake down, it looks like mid-invo, off-lane Faceless Void, and Slaughter, safe lane farming, presumably towards an earlier Blink. Although you can look towards Armlet, earlier BKB, or things of the like, it's not entirely necessary, and you can get away with just having more ways to initiate, which is never a bad thing by any means, and Blink really does help Slaughter out a whole heck of a lot. Witch Doctor ban coming out for Hyperglory Team is definitely justified in and of himself as a really standard support. When you have the minus armor from Slaughter amplifying that Death Ward damage, there really isn't anything else that comes to mind other than ouch. It really does sting. And with Faceless Void as well to set up for it, yeah, Witch Doctor ban entirely warranted. We'll have to see what aces are most scared of. It probably is going to be one of those stunning supports, and the Earthshaker is going to be taken out by them. Would have been very disruptive as well inside the Chronosphere to have fissures flying through. But yeah, I think with the Earthshaker taken out of the pool, Hyperglory Team should be looking towards either that Sand King or Disruptor that I was mentioning earlier on. If not, maybe they have something super cool in mind, and I am always one for experimentation and some fancy drafts, especially when they're played to their fullest potential, and we should be seeing some pretty high-level Dota, at least today, and throughout the day as well. Hyperglory Team, no matter what this pickup is for them, we are going to be seeing it relatively soon, with only 37 seconds of reserve time left inside the pool. Okay then. If they want to go for something super, super greedy, they could be throwing the Batrider towards the jungle, and, well, it's actually going to be a Mirana for them. Another one of those heroes that, for a long time, was super, super popular, and really has fallen out of favor. They have decent setup for the arrow with the magic missile, but for the most part, these are going to be free-handed arrows from Hyperglory Team, but they do have some decent ways to scale later on in the game, but this really feels like it's all about that Shadow Fiend. If SF becomes a monster, Hyperglory Team are going to be well on their way towards a Game 2 victory. Blink Dagger on the Batrider and potentially on the Darkseer also come close to the impact that SF is going to potentially be able to have. But NVIDIA Aces, it's going to be a Tusk. Haha, I love Aces. If I didn't love them already, I absolutely love them. Pudge and no Tusk. They're not throwing away these games, mind you, as well. This isn't a terrible pick. They are going to have defensive snowballs up against the Batrider, can be so disruptive for him, and defensive snowballs up against Mirana Arrow too. It's not as good as a disruption when you're dealing with the Mirana Arrow, but it's still pretty darn good. And at the very least, it's going to be fun. That's all that matters. Since we've been so used to seeing just the same old Tidehunter, Brewmaster, Scarth, Mage, it's good to test the waters a little bit. Really, the only team that consistently runs Tusk is Screen Squad, now Moscow 5 International. And we'll be seeing them later on, actually, in the Bryden League. But that's a different story entirely. Hopefully, we'll be able to get this last player in from NVIDIA Aces to load, and we won't have too many pauses to start things off. Knock on wood. But okay, there we go. We are going to get everybody loaded into the game, and I suppose I'll go ahead and introduce the teams really quickly. Oh my goodness, hopefully we'll be able to connect to Perfect World servers a little bit better than game number 1. That said, we are going to have WTI playing on, or WT on the Faceless Void, that's not who they had last game. Or maybe it was, and they just switched around the names. Misa going to be playing on the Slaughter with Secret on the Tusk KL7 on the Ancient Apparition, and Invoker handled by Fox. And on the Dire side, we are going to have Hyper Glory Team, or HGT, with Kaka playing on the Batrider. Looks like he's going to be jungling up on that one. Pretty hot on the Vengeful Spirit. Marana handled by ZSMJ, going to be receiving a decent amount of farm. Air going to make a reprise on his Shadow Fiend, and the offlane Darkseer played by Icy. Let's see, potential first blood attempt. This is really where you can see Tusk get a lot of action with that snowball, but for now, Vengeful Spirit is eluding him. Boots first on the Tusk, not on the Venge, and unfortunately, the Surfer lag is starting to get to me. But at least we're not going to miss first blood, or are we? They are just going to very aggressively shut down the enemy jungle, and even if they weren't straight up jungling this Batrider, that still does quite a lot to deny him those early stacks, and it really does feel like that is going to be the order of business for them. Hyper Glory Team going to be going for a very greedy lineup, and honestly both teams are. Let's see who it's going to favor. However, early bounty runes. Top is going to be secured by the Faceless Void, and bottom by the Batrider. Kaka is going to head straight off towards the jungle. He doesn't have sentries available to him, however, as the Vengeful Spirit, as the only support, was forced to buy all of the support stuff, and after that, just a little bit of regen as well. So this camp is going to be blocked, and blocked for good, but good news for the Batrider is it's only a sentry, and he still has a handful of medium camps to work with, although Mud Golems can always be terrible. Okay then, so Kaka is going to be straight up jungling from minute one. He is going to have a solid camp to work with. And Centaurs as well. This is doable, and he, worst case scenario, can cliff jungle over here, I suppose. Who knows? It looks like it's going to be okay for Hyper Glory Team. As far as the other lane matchups, we're going to Venge and run up towards top. Faceless Void needs to be careful, but as long as he holds his Time Walk and doesn't go out to lane without the Time Walk, should be okay. Mid lane, Invoker versus Shadow Fiend at the early start is a fairly even matchup. Both of them going to be loading out with some decent stats and pretty similar amounts of damage, and Shadow Fiend is going to be happy because of it. Eventually, Shadow Fiend is going to be able to pick up inside the lane, but there is always that potential for the Invoker to outplay him, and support rotations are always that X factor. Bottom lane with the Ancient Apparition Slaughter plus Tusk, Darkseer, although his Iron Shell is going to be very useful in this lane to pressure it out and be annoying to Misa. Wait, what the heck? Okay. I hope that's a replay bug. There's an Aegis in Slaughter's inventory? I didn't miss a level 1 Roshan. I should hope I didn't. That should expire something. I don't know what's happening. Okay, either way, Perfect World servers are far from perfect, and I think I'll just chalk it up to that. Okay, giving me a heart attack. I didn't think they'd have the potential to go level 1 Rush. Either way. Yeah, Icy is going to be able to get a decent amount, but Snowball flying up from the high ground. They are going to have the Chilling Touch onto this Darkseer. Surge should be able to keep him out to safety, however, and without the Slaughter offering the Crush, he is going to be just fine. And Invis Rune as well, going to help bail out the DS. But both of these offlaners aren't going to be having the greatest of lanes. But as a general rule, HGT are getting a little bit more out of this early game since their Batrider has been able to have a decent time inside the jungle. This Invis Rune is a blessing for Icy, so he'll be able to soak some pull experience as well, and that pretty much sums up this early game. It's unlikely that we're going to see very many rotations since they are getting ZSMJ the farm up towards top in this Marana, and although there is potential to look for arrows on the hero, when you're safely in farming it, rotations just aren't going to be very often, I should say. Pretty odd, taking a lot of damage from the Faceless Void. He doesn't have any points in the bash, so the killing potential just isn't there, and he's going to be forced to Time Walk away defensively. Although he has plenty of regen, could still be in some trouble now. He's going to be able to salve up and be just fine. If this salve gets cancelled, however, that's going to be really annoying for him, forcing him to eat through, at the very least, 2 more of his Tango's value arrows thrown out by ZSMJ, and they'll be able to push down the tower pretty effectively, too. Now with the double Ion Shell up for the Darkseer, Misa is going to be constantly harassed out. Hopefully that Aegis is just a bug. If it's not, he'll be more than happy to lose his life, but I'm not sure how you get an Aegis without cheating that one in. So yeah. I think I'm just going to have to overlook it. I don't think it's actually there. Just seeing ghosts, and maybe I'm just super tired. Arrow lands up top, however, and they'll be able to bring down the Faceless Void. Arrow, good spell, as long as it connects, and that is going to be our first blood going the way of Hyper Glory Team. Not where I expect it to be, but Then again, I'm not sure exactly where I expected the first blood to occur. And now, down towards bottom, Batrider going to be able to make a rotation. They're going to be able to get a double kill, and that is going to be 3-0 for Hyperglory team after a rotation from the Batrider. Not what you expect at all. With the Tranquil Boots completed after jungle farming, you expect the Batrider to just chill inside the jungle. They have some vision, but not enough, and nobody expects the Batrider Inquisition. And especially with the Ion Shell on top of them and with the Firefly burning them down, they didn't really stand a chance. I probably should have been looking down towards bottom, or at least the actions that transcribed before that. Enemy Rune is going to be sat on by Kaka. He is going to pick that up as Shadow Fiend decides that he doesn't actually need the refill since he already got the double damage rune up towards top. Invoker, as far as mids are concerned, is not a hero that actually goes to the runes very often. Batrider aggressively inside the jungle, going to wrap around onto the Invoker, and now it looks like they're going to be baiting, but who's baiting who? Snowball going into the Shadow Fiend, but now with the Magical Missile on the Secret, it's going to be an easy pickoff for Hyperglory team. One of the downsides of having that Tusk is that you can't stop the Snowball once it's rolling. Cold Snap onto the Batrider is going to slow him down, and it looks like he might end up falling. No, he's going to be able to make himself scarce. It's going to be a double kill for Air. Fox is going to be able to escape, but only just with a little bit of help from the Quas region. Shadow Fiend, as if he wasn't scary enough, is going to be opening up the game 2-0. Aishar is going to nicely block him off, but without any further backup and with a Vengeful Spirit over on the sidelines, yeah, not something you comfortably go for. Unfortunately for HGT, they didn't actually have mana on that Vengeful Spirit, or maybe there's even some turnaround potential onto that Tusk. Okay, then 5-0. Hyperglory team, again, going to be taking this early game, but this time it's looking pretty nasty. The Batrider is making aggressive moves before anybody expects the Batrider to do so, and both of them salving up. They're going to bump into Misa. And now with the Ion Shell and the Firefly activated, Slardar potentially in a huge bit of trouble. Sunstrike is going to completely... oh no, the Invoker is on the Radiant side. Excuse me there. Snowball connects into the Batriders. They try to pursue. Batrider is going to be forced back, but then again, the burn damage on Tusk is too much. And now Misa burning in the fire and the flames. He is going to be frozen by the Cold Feet, but with only level 1, the Cold Feet actually doesn't matter. And Moonlight Shadow means that they'll be able to kill off Misa. He's going to be able to lasso him up, and the burn damage is enough. Kaka is going to be giving his life over to KLA7, or will he? One more auto attack is going to be enough, and there's nothing that the Batrider can actually do to survive there. But now Icy going to be using his Karate Fists of Action to punch down KL7, and with the Ion Shell and the Surge going to commit for this kill. And will he be able to get it? The Tusk is there for the Snowball, but he doesn't actually commit it fast enough. He is going to be able to stun up Icy, looking for the Ice Shards. He's going to be frozen by those Cold Feet, and now with an Ice Shards block, Icy should be falling here. Sunstrike is going to miss. He is going to be able to run away. The Ice Shards have blocking him off. Now going to turn around. The Tusk just not hitting this Darkseer enough. One crush from the Slardar is going to save the kill for his carry, making things 2-8 in an action-packed early start to the game. Killing spree ended. Now faces Void up towards top. He's going to be hit up again by that arrow. Now the double Starfall as well, and it's not over yet. We still have plenty of action left to go. Wrap around on mid. Not enough mana for a magic missile. But still, let me catch my breath for a second, because this game just isn't slowing down for anybody. Well, maybe it is. Huh. They've stopped. Early advantage, 5,000 gold towards Hyperglory team, and that's 1,000 advantage accrued per second. Although it has been tapered down a little bit after ending the killing spree of the Darkseer, it's still vastly in their favor, and they should be able to roll with this very easily. Aces, although they do have a Faceless Void in his Chronosphere, they don't have the greatest amount of damage to pump into it, especially since Fox is getting demolished in the mid lane. Not necessarily because of his CS. His CS numbers are fairly even with the Shadow Fiend, or at least within reasonable error. Snowball, I hear it going off towards mid, but it's not going to be fast enough. Instead, they look for the Cold Snap on the Pretty Hawk, going to be able to snap him down, and with the Sunstrike going to be the end. They get one raise off into the Slardar, and he's going to be forced back after that, but it is going to be Aces picking up a little bit more momentum. Outside of those lane kills, ZSMJ hasn't done much in the Mirana except for offer the Moonlight Shadow, and maybe that's exactly why they picked this hero in the first place. Batrider, even though he has been roaming, isn't going to be slowing down his Blink Dagger much, and if there are some stacks up in the enemy woods, he is going to have that very soon. They don't catch eyes on the Ancient Apparition. Meantime, bounty runes secured by Air, but no opportunities for anybody to actually snowball in, and this Tusk play has been very lackluster. It really hasn't done much for Aces. I think they could have gotten this out of most supports. Meantime, Ion Shell as well as the Firefly, it's a combination we've seen time and time again, onto the Batrider, but it's not going to get him a kill this time around. He's just going to utilize that to farm up some neutrals, and this is going to be well on his way towards a blink at a decent click, especially considering that his large camp was blocked for the first 4 minutes of the game. Up towards top, Faceless Void again going to fall to the magic missile and arrow combo. At a certain point, you just kind of have to not go to that lane. All he wants is his Chronosphere up, but Hyperglory team not going to let the Faceless Void have that at his disposal. Ooh, I hear a snowball. Where's that actually going towards? It's going towards top. Sunstrike, if that lands on his ZSMJ, could be an easy kill, but the Ice Shard's blocked. It's not good enough, and now they look for the turn. It's going to be too much damage with the Phase Boots equivalent on the Mirana and just the right-clicking power of both of these heroes. It'll be an easy failed kill towards Hyperglory team. Meantime, Batrider in mid, diving with the cold snap onto him. He's still going to survive. His tower aggro's toggled off of him. Icy going to chase after the Ancient Apparition with the Ion Shell, looking for a couple more raises. Double damage rune again onto air as he cleaves down this Faceless Void. All he needs is one more right click, can't find it, and then it's going to be Air Force to fall back. We have the mechanism purchased up by the Darkseers. He's behind the tower. Ice Shards are going to block him off, or potentially, but they actually don't know it. The Iron Shell is going to tickle Secret, but nothing more, and Icy as well as his friend Kaka are going to be able to make themselves scarce. HGT still sticking around. They get the lasso off onto this poor Tusk, and he can't defensively lasso out of this one. With a couple of raises, they'll be able to bring him down. They catch Vision of Air, but that double damage route is still going. They have this snowball actually going off. I didn't expect him to get it with the crush. They'll be able to turn onto air. That is going to be the death of him. The Tusk is going to still fall, however. But now man fighting up against the Slaughter, Batrider. Doesn't have a lot of mana to speak of. Mirana's joined the fray as well, going to be leaping over the sidelines, but it looks like this man fight's going to be the more interesting one. With one crush and a couple more specs of his Trident is going to be the end of the Batrider's life, but then again a magic missile is going to kill off the Slaughter, making things 2-2. An absolute slugfest. Almost 2 kills a minute here at 10 kills in the game, or 10 minutes into the game. 10 kills in the game was quite a long time ago. But I can't say that I could be happier. We're in for quite a treat. Right now, Hyperglory team are still finding a huge advantage, but it's not without throwing distance, I suppose. They could definitely lose this game if they get a little too cocky. Shadow Fiend, in particular, has slowed down his momentum a little bit after that most recent death. Hyperglory team going to go into the mid lane. Ice Shards to counter push this a little bit, but definitely not enough. Tier 1's going to fall in their favor without much hope of any other towers taken by aces, as their lanes are currently being pushed very much into their side of the map. Looking towards mid, they have the Chronosphere and the potential for a jump, but do they have the follow-up? Let's see if they're even willing to go for it. This Invoker build at the moment is pretty standard. Air up to the high ground. I think that spots out Faceless Void. They know he's there. He's going to jump in looking for the Chrono. Going to catch out one. Pretty Haas outside of it and has another swap of things really hit the fan. But they actually don't need it. Magic Missile committed. They are going to snowball in. Going to catch out two as the last goes off to the sidelines onto Misa. They won't be able to focus down. Walrus punch into air, but with the mechanism pop by the Darkseer, they're still in fit fighting shape. Misa is going to be trying to sprint away. They surge up the Batrider, looking to continue the pursuit with 4 stacks of the Napalm. His Faceless Void's killed off by the Mirana. He's going to be able to crush into Kaka, but this is a slow and painful death for Misa, as even with the sprint, he's not moving fast enough. They won't be able to flame break up in the high ground, and, well, why not? Just leave him there. We'll look for some raises. Misa's going to survive, at least for now, but no TP scroll. Misa's a sad Slaughter. 3 times sad. And can't do anything to actually get out of this pickle. They'll slowly bring him down. They have some backup, and looking towards the Vision, they're going to find it. Now Misa, they will vacuum a Magic Missile, and that's going to be the end of his life. I told you it would be slow and painful, and it really was. Although I thought it would be Firefly Burn. Invis Rune on the Tusk. Can't do anything with it, though. There's nobody low enough to have him assassinate them by himself. And still Hyperglory team just finding so much momentum. And right now, it really kind of feels like a pub game. I hate to say it, but it's a slugfest. Almost Blink Dagger up for the Batrider, too, and things are looking up for them. ZSMJ with the Yasha, and is trucking for this point in the game, has quite a lot of damage, and eventually we'll have Shadow Fiend with some minus armor as well. My goodness, he's going to snipe out the Tusk. Wasn't expecting that kill to happen at all, but looks like all it took was an arrow and a double star fall. All tier 1 towers have fallen in the favor of Hyperglory team, and right now they're controlling the map admirably. The map vision the Aces have is moderate, but not enough to keep them safe. Honestly, what's the game plan for them? It really feels like they kind of have to resort back to the smoke ganking non-stop that we saw in game number 1 from them to try and look towards getting back into this side. Okie day then. Ooh, looks like my frame dropped. I thought I disabled that in my auto exec. Maybe it's not running, who knows. Either way, Hyperglory team going to put some pressure on the tier 2 tower down towards bottom, but we might be in for a pretty big fight. Unfortunately for Aces, they still have no level 6 on the ancient apparition. He's just been a sad man throughout this entire game. Hasn't been able to find any room, and not really his fault. It's just the aggression that Hyperglory team been able to put up with the Batrider and Darkseer of all heroes. Arrow going to fly through, and it connects onto KL7. Even if they don't kill him off, that's just so humiliating. They saw that arrow flying through, and he was just looking somewhere else on the map. The SMJ is going to be blocked off by some creeps. He's going to show that off. He has a leap if things really hit the fan. He's going to be just fine either way. But now it's Hyperglory's team to go into the Roshan pit, and it should be a pretty secure one too, even though they don't have any lifesteal on their heroes. They have a mechanism on the Darkseer and the Minus Armor coming out from the bench, and that should mean that they'll be able to take it, especially with a 5-second arrow landing onto Roche. Aces, in the meantime, are going to be looking to take a tier 1 tower up towards top. Maybe. They sit in the slaughter in the trees as if they think that somebody's going to be farming here, but unbeknownst to them, they're all inside the Roche pit, except for the Batrider, who's currently looking for a deep ward. He doesn't find that deep ward that I was talking about a second ago. He will just continue getting reconnaissance and farming up a little bit, and that is going to be Aegis picked up by the Shadow Fiend. Air Shadow Fiend is definitely something to be feared, and we've seen that in both of these games. Going to be going for a straight BKB, and once he has that one, Aces, their damage potential is okay with the Slaughter and Faceless Void as long as they get a handful of bashes. But it's not reliable, and HGT have plenty of ways to start fights on their own terms with the Blinking Darkseer and with the Blinking Bat. Okay, so let's see where this is actually going to happen, and actually Aces still haven't put enough pressure on this tier 1 tower. I thought they'd be able to take it. I mean, of course they don't have the same map vision that I do, but yeah, it's fairly obvious that HGT are, as a 5-man unit, they're going to take a tier 2 tower in mid, and Aces aren't going to be interested in defending it. Finally, they are going to make a way with that tier 1 tower up towards top, but it just doesn't compare with what HGT are getting out of this map. That's going to be a tier 2 tower destruction, and really, there's not much that they need to do to stop. They have the Aegis up on the Shadow Fiend, and can feasibly put some pressure on the tier 3 tower, at the very least force Aces back, and then they can swing up towards top, take the tier 2 tower then, and if they have the BKB up onto air, maybe they can even look for the fights on their own terms. We have the Blink Dagger up for the Slaughter, but it's been a long time incoming. This is a safe lane farming hero that has Power Ched's Blink at almost 16 minutes into the game. Misa, not having a good time at all. Even less so than the Pudge. It just doesn't really feel like farming his thing. Farming's his thing, and with the Slaughter, he hasn't been able to find very many kills either. Up in the air with the Batriders, they look for a jump onto the enemy team. They haven't spotted out Aces just yet, but now they bump into Secret, looking for the vacuum back. Icy only catches out one, is the Faceless Void, and for now, that's going to be all she wrote. But now, with the Surge onto Kaka, the Ice Shards going the way, or rather Snowball going the way of the neutrals. They jump in looking for the crush, going to catch out a handful of heroes. The Faceless Void able to time walk over to the side. The wall doesn't catch anybody. Long swap out. Chronosphere almost used purely defensively. Sunstrike is going to connect onto the Vengeful Spirit, but doesn't do enough damage. So crush him down as well, but Pretty is more than comfortable to survive, and they pick off the Tusk in the meantime, with Shadow Fiend picking up the last hit there, and for who knows how many times this series, he has another double damage rune. This just is Air's rune. He's able to find it consistently, and when it's important, he's going to jump in mid, going to get instantly cold snapped up. But Air, even if he dies here, has an Aegis, although he is probably going to be, at the very least, forced to use something. ZSMJ going to snipe up the Invoker too. I actually didn't see any of that. I wasn't expecting the Mirana to come from that angle, and I suppose neither was the Invoker. Is right now, all he is a Bloodstain, and a pretty gruesome one at that, over by those trees. HR Personal Ice Blast going to connect onto a handful of heroes, but there's no follow-up for it, and it's a level 1 Ancient Apparition Ice Blast 2. It hardly dents Hyperglory team. They'll swing towards top with the double damage rune on Shadow Fiend. Aces aren't really interested in defending, and rightfully so too. Can't do much about it. It is going to be them taking this tier 2 tower for free. Sorry about that. I think I hit the button to change the vision. But now we're back to actually seeing everything. The closest Radiant hero is the Tusk, and what can this Tusk do? 0, 6, and 5. It just hasn't been Secret's game. Well, there you have it. Mirana going to need the tower destruction, and now, from here on out, Hyperglory team have plenty of time where they still have the Aegis, more than 2 minutes, in fact, where they are going to have the double life on the SF. Firefly up in the air, they look for the Blink Crush onto the Batrider in return, but can't connect onto it, and the turn rate slow into the slider is pretty darn significant. They'll be able to drop even more stacks of that sticky napalm, surge forward with the Vengeful Spirit, and they connect onto Misa. Ancient Pressure Ice Blast flies through, connects onto 2, and with the Crush onto the Vengeful Spirit, they might be able to bring him down, but with the Sunstrike scared between 2 targets, that's not even close, and a wicked 6 spree for ZSMJ. Even as a safe lane farming run is still able to find so many openings, surging forward on Pretty, trying to find a magic missile target, not going to do so, as there has set up for it in mid, and right now it feels like it's all but over for Aces. The Hail Mary, it really has to be based on this next Chronosphere and the next team fight too. They need some sick combo coming out from the Invoker, and they do have 4-1-4 up for him, so they are going to have the Deafening Blast Meteor to throw into the Chronosphere as well as a Sunstrike. But even so, with BKB up on the Shadow Fiend for his second life, I'm not sure it's going to be enough. Things are looking grim for Aces, as HGT are just systematically strangling them. It really is what it looks like, though, because there's not anywhere that they can comfortably farm. Whenever they try to go into their jungle and woods, ZSMJ is going to snag them with an arrow, Batrider is going to get a lasso onto one of them, they have plenty of follow-up too, and Aces, their line is drawn pretty much here. Unfortunately, I can't actually draw on the map proper since this is in Dota TV, unfortunately enough, but still, Hyperglory team are looking solid, and they're going to look solid wherever they go. They're currently split pushing with air up towards top. That is now a Blink Dagger picked up by the SF, because he can. I think this is completely acceptable. I don't think there's really anything that he particularly needs when you're almost doubling up the enemy slaughter and more than 3,000 gold ahead of the Invoker that's supposed to be your counterpart on the enemy team. You can afford to go for the more aggressive item choices. And, I mean, he already has the BKB. I mean, he's not actually missing out on anything. Blink is a wonderful item. Forget I actually said anything. That's ridiculous. Up inside the bottom lane, the smoke's going to be dissipated by a Potom ulti, and that is going to force both teams back as Aces head straight into their base, and Hyperglory team exercise a little caution and pull back to where the tier 2 tower once stood. They're grouped up, and they have still some time. No, actually they don't. Aegis just expired, or expired about 20 seconds ago onto air, so they aren't going to have the double life in the SF, but if they get a pick off, it doesn't matter. Long swap on Misa. Where's the follow-up, however? They're going to lasso him back in. Mirana is going to be attacked by Ancient Pressure Ice Blast, but it doesn't matter. Misa's going to fall, and that's a lot of initiation power coming out from Aces off the table. They still have the Chrono and the Invoker. But right now, it's HGT going into this with a 4v5 raw hero advantage, and this might just be backbreaking. We have the Manta Illusions as well as a set of Illusion Runes for the Mirana as they'll start chipping away up at the high ground, but they'll time out or be chipped down very quickly anyway. Right, Ion Shell up on the air, and now it's game time. The chip damage isn't super significant at this moment, and Aces just need to find an opportunity where they can actually get a jump. Now it would have been a decent time if they had everybody with lots of positioning items to actually follow up after that Chronosphere, but Hyperglory team, they'll just pull back. There's actually no pressure onto them. Even in the late game, I think they have a decent shot just because of the raw potential of their initiating, and especially when they have this much of gold advantage. And exactly how much you ask, it is 20,000, currently maintaining that 1,000 gold per minute advantage earned in the net worth graph pretty much from the get-go, and pretty similar in the experience too. It's really not comebackable. There's maybe been 1 or 2 games, and I don't think it's with these lineups. Misa going to bump into ZSMJ, and this could be sketchy. Arrow, very short one, going to land on the Misa. Second Starfall going to land, jumping with the Time Walk. Chronosphere onto ZSMJ. Where's the follow-up? They're going to get a Sunstrike onto the Mirana, but Mirana's still living. With the Ancient Pressure Ice Blast is going to be the end of her life, so scratch that. Mirana is going to be the casualty of war. In the meantime, Hyperglory team are looking towards mid, where they aren't going to find anything. They need to do that. Aces need to do that a lot more. But then again, if you take a look at the gold they actually got from that, that's absurd because of how far behind they are. That single pickoff is a 3,000 gold swing. Comeback mechanics are cool. Either way, Hyperglory team going to go back into their side of the map as they look to defend this tier 2 tower. Aces, after using Chronosphere, can't take a fight, so they probably shouldn't even try. But the hope is real for a comeback. Let's see how many more of those pickoffs they're going to be able to find. Hyperglory team now working towards a Yule Scepter on their Batrider, and the other big item pickups are also coming out. But Misa desperately needs BKB. Speaking of Misa, he's going to get lassoed up, and oh, it's going to be cliffed. He is. He's stuck. And with the Blink Dagger being constantly cancelled, he has a Force Staff from the Invoker. And he is going to use that, looking for the Force Staff into the Crush, but a blink away towards the right is going to keep Kaka safe, at least for now. And they have ZSMJ on the low ground if they need some long-range arrow backup. Currently, the Batrider Lucians are scouting out the enemy team, and Hyperglory team are going to look towards top, Force Staff forward, and looking for the Tornado into Deafening Blast Meteor combo, but the Meteor doesn't land for that long, and not going to be enough. They are going to kill off the Slaughter very handily, and after all of that, Aces, they're also going to lose their Tusk Arrow, going to finish him off as Mirana picks up yet another kill, currently sitting at 9-1-1. HGT now poised to push down this high ground in the top lane, slaughtered down for 30 seconds, and I suppose the silver lining for Aces is that since they are so low leveled on their heroes, means that they are going to have low respawn timers. Arrows just fishing for the Mirana for a little bit of a glimpse at Aces lineup, even if they don't connect. Just the intel of knowing where the enemy heroes are is probably good enough. They'll take this tier 3 tower down to about half before the Slaughter is even close to respawning, and probably will be able to take the tier 3. With no BKB, however, onto air, they need to be careful. Ancient Apparition Ice Blast going to fly through and is going to connect. Deafening Blast also going to snag him with no Faceless Void jumping in for the Chrono and no Sunstrike committed. Hyperglory team going to be just fine. They blink in for the crush on the ZSMJ, but Misa is pretty much alone. They drop an Ice Shards, but now the lasso onto the sidelines going to pull back the Faceless Void. Can they focus him down before he gets off the Chrono? Walrus Punch going to be committed towards Pretty Hob, but still everybody surviving. Blink forward by air as he gets one raise into Misa, bouncing him back with the Flame Break, and that's going to be the end of Slaughter's life. Snowball is only going to delay the inevitable, it seems, for the Tusk as he goes onto the back of this fight. The Sunstrike is going to do quite a lot of damage towards Pretty Haas. They look to focus down the Vengeful Spirit, and they will be able to get him with the Ancient Apparition Ice Blast. DKB popped out by the Shadow Fiend as he is dropping low, but not low enough. Ancient Apparition Ice Blast, I believe, is still only level 1. Jumping aggressively into the base as Air just has no fears. At 200 HP during this fight, he's going to get snowballed in, and he's going to pay for his insolence. However, Secret is going to pay the piper for that as well. We have a Shadow Blade picked up by the Faceless Void, and at this point, I think it's fair to say that Aces have pretty much given up. If they had the Chronosphere with the Shadow Blade, maybe it's a genius play. They're going to open up onto the Batrider with the Cold Snap. It looks like Bat is going to lose his life. They just need one more smack of the mace, and that's going to be it. And buyback on the Tusk is going to force Hyperglory team back. But now what? Even though Aces defend their high ground in theory, they're not farming, they're not getting any further items. Blink in for the crush. Ooh, going to miss on the Mirana. That could have been a significant pickup, as we've already seen. The gold that they get from those is super huge. After that buyback on the Tusk, the gold advantage that they actually gain is pretty limited, and with the Faceless Void picking up the Shadow Blade, even though I think it's a cute item to go for, now that it's been shown off for one, the surprise factor is gone, and Sentries or Gem picked up by HGT is going to put an end to that, and they have more than enough gold to sustain that through, as well as not going towards bigger and better items. Right now, it really feels like they need a Hail Mary, and maybe a Shadow Blade and a Chrono is going to be it. It's going to be risky, though. I'm hoping for the best. Aces, let's see if they're going to be able to secure the fight. And right now, they're going to smoke near the Roshan area. Let's see if they're going to be able to secure it. Rana is going to be using Moonlight Shadow. The smoke is going to pop. They don't have detection on the Void, however, which means the SFG, a leap away, is going to mean that that smoke is completely given up. And Aces have to pull back. They can't actually fight here now. The Hyperglory team know that they're out of their base. That's about all she wrote. They're still sticking around a little bit longer than I thought they probably should have. They're going to look for a Blink Crush on the ZSMJ. It's going to miss. They get the amp damage onto him, but now Misa going to be lassoed up by the Batrider, and he's going to be on the cliff, and this is bringing back bad memories for the Slaughter. This cliff has been his undoing more than once, and it's going to be Hyperglory team getting a dominating spree on the Mirana, so maybe, just maybe, they get the extra gold on whoever kills off ZSMJ. But still, that's going to be your completed up. Mjolnir from Mirana if ZSMJ actually wants to go for it. I don't think it matters when you're this far ahead of the enemy team. Roshan going to be taken by HGT as well. The Ancient Apparition Ice Blast is going to be a nuisance. But, again, it's level 1. Ancient Apparition, this is no Midas game for him. He's not going to be able to pick that up. And, well, it doesn't help that Mirana gets a solo kill in the Tusk over on the sidelines. A little bit of help from the Darks here, I suppose. But for the most part, ZSMJ is going to be pulling the strings in that. 777 damage done by the Tusk, I suppose. Not his lucky day, however. Double life now up for Air and his Shadow Fiend. Hyperglory team going to group up and look towards the mid lane and finish what they started. It's 27 minutes in the game, and it really feels like Hyperglory team have it in the bag. Aces. Shadow Blade on the Faceless Void is going to be used. It's spotted out. They don't cancel the TP on ZSMJ as he's going up towards top. And this Shadow Blade usage from Faceless Void shouldn't net them any kill, however. They are going to ping out ZSMJ. He's spotted himself towards Creep Wave, and this is Mirana completely alone. This is a big opening, but they're probably going to have to commit a Chronosphere for it. Now the opening's gone as ZSMJ leaps away to safety, and now Oh, Radiant's career to add insult to injury, that's going to be taken out, and that was your complete Mask of Madness for the Void and Fox's Yule Scepter. It doesn't really get any worse for them. They don't get to pick off, they're wasting time, they're not farming up, and they lose their career. Hyperglory team now going to go onto the aggressive. They blink forward, actually, onto the Invoker. Crush is going to catch out pretty hard. The Wall going to catch out too. However, vacuum back into them. They're going to obliterate one, and now looking towards the Slaughter. That's going to be 2-0 in the favor of Hyperglory team. And they have an army of 2 illusions as well. They are going to be marching down the top lane, although they're not going to be lasting for too much longer. They might be able to mop up the creep wave. Never mind. Air's already on it. He's going to finish that up. And we have a full data list up for ZSMJ if things weren't already bad enough for them. The Murata is now really the hardest hitting hero in this game, I want to say. I mean, Shadow Fiend, he, don't get me wrong, is still trucking. But all of his items are more or less defensive. Blink, the plate mail, as well as the BKB. He's going to be working towards the Assault Cuirass, and, well, he actually has that done after anybody destroys these barracks, or after just a handful more creeps. Range barracks up towards top's going to be chunked away by Aces, and with the current positioning of HGT, the ability for Aces to take a fight is almost nil. Although they're going to try their darndest, try and get the Aegis off of Air first. He actually just doesn't care. They're going to swap back into the Slaughter, vacuum back, going to pull back 2 Radiant heroes into the Chronosphere. The follow-up just isn't there, and Air doesn't even die. He pops the BKB and turns. 1 raise, 2 raise is going to be the end of Aces Void's life, and he still hasn't procced that Aegis. That's going to be 3 heroes down for Aces, and it feels like it's all but over. They are going to snowball in, and they get the second life procced, and that's all that they wanted before GG is called out by Misa, and that's going to be a clean 2-0 for Hyperglory team. Aces put up a good show, especially in game number 1, but it feels like all of the steam is out of the tank for them. Well played to both sides, and that's not going to be the end of Dota action for today. We are still going to have more coming up here on HeflaTV very shortly, and exactly what games, you ask? It is going to be Myth versus Speed Gaming, and I will be joined by a co-caster that game around, so don't go anywhere. If you like the casting, you can follow us on HeflaTV on Twitter, Facebook, and here on Twitch, and I'm Grandis C if you're interested in following me personally. Find me on Twitter, although I don't post much and probably should more. Either way, we'll have another game coming up in just a few minutes, I suppose. When's the actual scheduled time for it? Scheduled time was 9 minutes ago, so I might actually be late to the lobby, so we're going.